If you like American history, please subscribe to our channel and ring that bell so you can be notified when we put up a new video. The passion of video gamers has no limits. In 2021, the video game market size in the United States surpassed $85 billion. And globally, you have to add another $100 billion for a total of $189 billion that year. Who spent all that money in 2021? How about the 2.81 billion gamers who played on smartphones, game consoles, PCs, smart TVs, tablets, mobile game consoles, and streaming devices? So, what was the first home video game? And who fathered this amazing industry that generates more money than the movie and music industry combined? The answers are next on Marking History. This is the historical marker for Ralph Baer, known as the father of video games. Right next to the marker is his life-size bronze statue resting on a park bench and holding the first video game console. His marker and statue are located here in Manchester, New Hampshire, a few hundred feet south of the Notre Dame Bridge. Ralph held more than 150 U.S. and foreign patents and had a profound influence on electronic games, military simulators, and medical devices. He also had a lot to do with a little game you might have heard of, the game Simon. Ralph Baer licensed the first home video game to Magnavox.
This is Odyssey, the new electronic game simulator,
Who rebranded it as the first interactive video game system, the Magnavox Odyssey, and released it in 1972. Now, let's learn more about the man behind the marker. Ralph Baer was born in 1922 in southwestern Germany and grew up in a Jewish home. Sadly, it became difficult for Jews to live there in Germany after Adolf Hitler became chancellor in 1933. The Baer family faced increasing anti-Semitism when the Nuremberg race laws were passed in 1935. This series of highly repressive measures deprived German Jews of political and social freedom. Young Ralph experienced the Nuremberg race laws firsthand. At age 14, Ralph was expelled from public school under Nazi anti-Semitic legislation. Then things got worse. On November 9, 1938, in an incident known as the Night of Broken Glass, Nazis in Germany vandalized Jewish homes, schools, and businesses and killed close to 100 Jews. Hundreds of synagogues were destroyed in that one day. It was the beginning of the Holocaust. Luckily, the Baer family saw the writing on the wall and fled to New York City only weeks before the Night of Broken Glass. While the Baer family settled in their new country, 16-year-old Ralph found work at his cousin's leather factory, producing manicure kits for Avon. There, Ralph showed an early aptitude for invention and innovation. He designed a feature for the leather machine to stitch 5 or 6 cases at the same time, which accelerated the factory's production process. His interest in machines and technology continued with his enrollment in correspondence courses in radio servicing offered by the National Radio Institute in Washington, D.C. He graduated as a radio service technician in 1940 and worked in the field for 3 years before he was drafted in the U.S. Army in 1943. Although the Army could have taken advantage of Baer's radio communication skills, they had other plans for him. Because of his German language fluency, Ralph Baer was given orders to attend the secret U.S. Army intelligence training facility at Camp Ritchie, Maryland. There, he learned military interrogation techniques used on Nazi prisoners. Ralph Baer became one of the Ritchie Boys. The Ritchie Boys was a U.S. special unit of military intelligence service officers and enlisted men of World War II who trained at Camp Ritchie. Like Ralph Baer, Many were German-speaking Jewish immigrants who fled Nazi persecution. The Ritchie boys were used primarily for interrogation of prisoners on the front lines and counterintelligence in Europe because of their knowledge of the German language and culture. The Ritchie boys were responsible for gathering more than half the actionable intelligence on the battlefield during World War II. For many German-born Jews like Ralph Baer, defeating the Nazis was heartbreakingly personal. During the build-up for the Normandy landings, Baer was shipped overseas to England where he contracted pneumonia. Thus, he was spared going ashore on D-Day. After the war, Baer attended the American Television Institute of Technology in Chicago on the GI Bill. While at school, Baer built television studio equipment. This was the beginning of his love for television and how it works. He graduated with a Bachelor of Science degree in television engineering in 1949, the first time a TV engineering degree was conferred. As a new graduate in 1951, Ralph Baer had a novel idea of using a TV set for something other than watching commercial television broadcast. He proposed to his boss at the Loral Electronics Television Company that they should build games into their branded television sets to differentiate them from those of their competitors. The proposal was rejected, but as you will see, 15 years later, Ralph Baer realized that the idea still had merit. After almost 20 years of electronics engineering experience, Ralph Baer joined Sanders Associates, a huge defense contractor in Nashua, New Hampshire. As staff engineer for Sanders during the late 1950s, one of his big projects was working on a secret spying apparatus, codenamed Brandy, which was designed to pick up Soviet radio transmissions in occupied Berlin. Now, let's fast forward to a particular New York City summer day in 1966. Ralph Baer is waiting to meet a Sanders Associate colleague at the Port Authority bus terminal. He uses his free time scribbling notes on a small pad. It was a defining moment in gaming history. The subject was using ordinary home TV sets for the purpose of playing games.
What do we do with a television set except watch Channel 4 or shut it off when there's nothing decent on? Here's this expensive display that's in everybody's home. It costs very little because it's made by the millions, so why not do something else with it? So I said, well, let's play games. That's how it started. I get back to the office and I wrote a description which lays it all out, and that's how it started.
His conceptual ideas included action games, board games, sports games, card games, shooting games, and chase games. And the target audience were owners of over 52 million TV sets in American homes. The date was September 1st, 1966, the genesis of a brand new industry. Ralph called it gaming because it was a term regularly used in the military and gave the project the appearance of being within the company's scope of interest as a military contractor. He understood that the games had to be fun or investors and consumers would not be interested. By 1967, Ralph Baer received funding from Sanders to start a small R&D team and created his first test device, TV Game Number 1. Users could play ping-pong with a dot on the screen. Sanders first applied for U.S. patents in mid-1967. 1 year later, Ralph Baer and his team created the 7th version of their TV game unit. It became known as the Brown Box because they covered the aluminum chassis with brown, self-adhesive wood grain vinyl to make it look a little more attractive. Games included ping pong, handball, hockey, volleyball, target shooting, and golf putting. Cards illustrated which switches to select in order to play a certain game. In 1971, Magnavox licensed the technology from Sanders, and in the summer of 1972 released its Magnavox Odyssey home video game system.
Magnavox presents Odyssey, the electronic game of the future. Odyssey easily attaches to any brand TV, black and white or color, to create a closed-circuit electronic playground. Odyssey gives you all the exciting action of hockey and 11 other challenging play and learning games for the entire family. Odyssey, a new dimension for your television, now at your Magnavox dealer. He's listed in the yellow pages.
Now comes the controversy and the lawsuits. When most people think of the first video game, they think of Pong, the Ping-Pong arcade game released by Atari in August 1972. Nolan Bushnell, Pong's inventor, referred to himself as father of video games. However, months earlier, Magnavox had already released its Odyssey home video game console. And on March 22, 1971, a full year before Pong appeared in arcades, Baer and his company Sanders had filed for the first video game patent, which was later approved. Nolan Bushnell would have a difficult time proving paternity. Here is his signature on the visitor sign-up sheet to play Odyssey's Ping-Pong game during an open house on May 24, 1972. Keep in mind, this was months before Pong, the arcade game, would magically appear in bars. It was years later that Bushnell finally admitted to the fact that his Pong game was inspired by playing Magnavox's Odyssey. In April 1974, Magnavox filed a patent infringement suit against Atari. Although Magnavox had no legal claim to the game of table tennis itself, Magnavox noted that Baer's broad-range patent covered any technology that used electric circuits to control dots on a standard television screen. During trial, Judge John Grady asked to see the inside of a Pong arcade game. Inside was a modified black-and-white Admiral TV set turned into a television monitor. The trial ended with Judge Grady's decision in favor of Magnavox. Atari settled for $1.5 million and became the first licensee of the technology from Magnavox in order to continue to market Pong and other video games that followed. Meanwhile, sales of Magnavox Odyssey spiked because of the success of Pong. Consumers bought the Odyssey game console so they could play their favorite arcade game at home. With approximately 350,000 units sold, Magnavox Odyssey was not considered a commercial success. However, Magnavox would generate almost 3 times the revenue of Odyssey sales by filing lawsuits against game companies infringing on Baer's patent. All told, Magnavox won over $100 million from lawsuits alone.
If you're an electronics type.
Ralph Baer never did stop inventing. Here are just a few firsts that he developed over his career. First, to insert caption graphics over the video of an ordinary TV set. First, to develop an interactive plush toy called Smarty Baer. And the first interactive recordable talking book for Golden Books. Ralph Baer's most famous and successful game had to be Simon, the handheld single-chip microprocessor game licensed to Milton Bradley in 1978. In an example of irony, Simon was inspired by Atari's arcade game called Touch Me. 40 years later, Simon is still being played by millions. In 2004, Ralph Baer is awarded the National Medal of Technology by President George W. Bush. Baer continued to invent electronic games and toys until his passing on December 7, 2014, at the age of 92. Today, you can visit Ralph Baer's basement workshop on display at the Smithsonian Institute in Washington, D.C. And it all started with Baer's bus stop brainstorm on a summer day in 1966. If history can be taught with stories, it can never be forgotten. Please like our video, subscribe to our channel, and ring the bell to stay informed on the latest videos. And don't forget to leave your comments below and tell us what you like about this video.